Welcome to Tyrompers No Limit Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Tyrompers No Limit Podcast. This is episode 54. Guys, we are absolutely fired up. We got a legend in the mist today. This is a man right here. He is an elite fitness and performance coach. This is a man that runs Ironmans, 100-mile ultra marathons, can deadlift over 700 pounds. This is a man that's a hero, Air Force veteran. He's a speaker and a father. A man that recently ran a marathon while drinking 30 plus beers on a random Tuesday. I can't wait to get into it. The man, the myth, the legend. I am so fired up to talk to this guy. Welcome, Mr. Boyd Myers. How you doing today, bro?
I'm well, Ty. Thanks for having me, sir.
Man, thank you for coming on. Well, dude, I would assume at this point, man, I mean, I'm all over your timeline since I found you a few weeks ago, man. You're one that I actually go, it's like you and Zuby and Zach Hommel. There's a few that I get to their page every day. You're one of these guys. I just can't wait to see what you're going to do next. But for anybody out there that might follow me but not know a bit who you are, can you just kind of give a little intro, man?
Yeah, man. So I'm like you said, I'm an Air Force veteran. Grew up in the mountains of southeastern Kentucky, that northeast Tennessee area. Pretty poor area. Grew up, like a lot of people in that area did. Had an addicted father, an abusive father. Just counted down the days to get out of there. The military was the obvious, the easy way to get out. Went to the military and immediately fell in love with fitness, man. I was about 20, I think, when that first Body for Life Bill Phillips contest came out. I did the first one. Was hooked. Soon thereafter that, I started getting like personal training certification. Started just helping anybody I could for free, man. I probably trained 5-6 hours a day for free for years, right? So got out of the military, went to Baghdad and spent a couple of years in the Middle East as a contractor. Came back, opened my own gym in San Antonio, Texas. Did that for about 7 years. Decided I was just kind of burned out. So moved from San Antonio up to Dallas-Fort Worth. And when I left my gym, I completely left fitness in the dust, man. I don't think – so you're talking 2013, 2014. I didn't touch a weight or a healthy meal until 2018 and had a little health scare, man, right before my little girl was born. So my daughter Ava was born July 19th, 2018. About 3 weeks before that, puts me right on Father's Day, and I thought I was having a heart attack, right? So was heavy. I had a high-stress job, working about 80 hours a week, drinking more than I care to admit to make that 30-beer marathon seem like just a drop in the bucket. I was drinking that every single day, or a full handle of vodka, knocking that down. A little heart scare. It kind of straightened me up for a day or two, but it really didn't. And then later that year, we just cut to it. Later that year, I decided I'm just sick and tired of being sick and tired. Basically, like you see me do a lot of things on a whim, I just kind of signed up for an Ironman, gave myself 11 months. Now, understand when I signed up for that, and we'll get into this, I hadn't run 1 mile in 13 years. I had never been on a road bike, and I hadn't swam a lap. I hadn't swam a lap in 25 years at that point. So signed up for Ironman Arizona. It was 11 months out. Went from couch potato, 1 foot in the grave, to Ironman in 11 months. And that was just the beginning.
Man, that is so wild. Okay, so there's so many questions I have to get into, man. I was wondering a little bit about your growing up. And so, okay, can we get into that a little bit? Did you play sports? You said you kind of had a rough childhood, right? Like, when did you ever have any fitness or sports or anything in there? Or
yeah, I played it. It's like, I'm 46, right? So kind of where I grew up, man, everybody played everything, right? So I was obsessed with baseball for much of my life. Played baseball all the way, throughout. My love later, as I got into high school and stuff, my love became football. I played some basketball early on, wasn't good. Ran a little bit of track here and there too. So fairly average athlete. But in a small town, average can be really good too. So, but yeah, so I really didn't hit my like fitness peak like that a lot of kids were hitting at like 17 and 18 until I was about 19 or 20. Right. So when I first came in the military, we played full contact football. Right. So that was like, and so I was at my fastest and at that point, my strongest that I had ever been. So, I was probably, I was a late bloomer, I would say.
Yeah, I hit puberty at like 19 too, man. When I went to college, I think I weighed 140.
Yeah, so I gained a bunch of weight, man. But I know my junior year, my physical for football, my junior year, I was 5'7", 135. So I wasn't a big guy. So.
And now you're a tank, man. So, okay. So you go in the military, right? And that's when
Yeah.
you start to get your love of fitness. Is it through kind of the early morning, like that discipline that hit you, or what was it that kind of made you catch the bug, I guess, and get hooked?
Well, so I guess it'd be right before that, right? So I decided, like, man, I wanted to get out. I wanted to do something cool, right? I mean, I just didn't know anything about the military. I just thought I wanted to be in it. I wanted to be in it, right? It was like I said, a quick way out. So I found out about Air Force Pararescue, okay? And we're talking probably 4 months before I'm due to leave, right? And I take the test. I go to the University of Kentucky, their campus, and they've got a pool. So the initial test was swim 500 yards, was run 5K, do 60 push-ups, 60 sit-ups, maybe 8 pull-ups, right? Do some flutter kicks. And I said, I want to do that. And I went down there and I don't even think I knew how to I absolutely did not know how to properly swim, right? I just kind of dog paddled 500 yards. It was the hardest thing I ever did. I threw up the second I got out of the pool. I actually, during the run was the last thing, if I'm not mistaken, that I did. And I can't remember his name. I think it was Mo Williams, but I can't swear to that. He was running back for the University of Kentucky. He paced me on 3 miles. He's like, dude, just keep going, keep going. Wow. And I was dying because we were in there like their practice bubble. And he came over and they told him what I was doing and he paced me. So I'm a Tennessee fan, but I appreciated that, right? So so yeah, man. So that was where it started. I actually went to Air Force Pararescue training, their selection school right out of boot camp. An interesting tidbit about that was, so I was what they'd call Balls 595, right? So I was basically the 5th class of 1995. There was a guy that's pretty well known that would have been Balls 295. He had already washed out and he was waiting orders to go wherever he was going. But most of your listeners will know him. It was David Goggins.
Holy cow. Hang on one sec, man. I'm going to turn that alarm off. Thanks, brother. All right. Pick up with the Goggins thing, man. Sorry about that. We're good.
Yeah. So it was funny because there was a guy, it was obviously it was Goggins. And the funny thing was, I just remembered he had sickle cell trait and he was waiting. And I remember, he was rare for a couple of reasons. First off, I didn't know what sickle cell trait was. I didn't know that there was no chance that I had it, but I thought, oh shit, man, that explains a lot. That's why I suck in the water, right? Maybe I got it. But also too, there was, so the classes, like the couple classes before, he just happened to be a black guy. We had a black guy in our class, but there were no more, right? So he stuck out. Yeah. And years later, I had a lot of friends from the previous classes and stuff. And this was as he made his ascension, we started like, hey man, they're like, yeah, he was in training with us. So it was pretty cool. I don't remember anything specifically about him. I just remember the sickle cell trait and hear a story later on talking about he washed out because he was going to have to start back at week 0. He didn't want to do that again. So I just thought it was funny. I was like, wait a minute. And then I hear him talk on podcast and realized like he would talk about instructors. I'm like, hey, those were my instructors. I know those guys, right? So
that's pretty wild, man. And you guys have, it's funny, as we'll get into this later, but I feel like, as I've read through a lot of Goggins stuff, you guys seem to have that similar mindset, man, just of pain and like, I'm just going to keep going. I can take another step. Well, I'm either going to die or I'm going to finish this thing, right? And like, so maybe you got to have that kind of mindset to be in this kind of training in the first place,
Yeah, man. One thing that, and I've heard him say it, is suffering ends. And it's easy to say that while I'm sitting right here. My house is like 68 degrees. And I'm comfortable. I'm sitting on a very cushioned chair right now. It's easy to say that, but I can tell you, about 3 hours ago, I was finishing up a 20-mile run, and I decided the last 3 I was going all out on. And I went as hard as I possibly could go the last 3 miles. The goal was to make them all 3 under 6 minutes. And I threw up on the 20th. I threw up a couple times, all water because I hadn't eaten yet. And so it's funny. It's easy for me to say that, but I tell myself that a lot when I'm doing a lot of this goofy stuff I do, that it's going to end. Yeah. And on the other side of it, man, it's so rewarding to just make it through that. And that's a big part of my message is just keep going, just keep moving forward. It will end. It's temporary, right? The pain is temporary. It sucks. I get it. But going through it and getting to the other side of it, man, there's a lot of reward in that.
Yeah, it's true. I think you can almost get addicted to the pain a little bit too, man. I know, like when I'm pushing myself running wind sprints or when I do a stupid thing, I'm going to get up at 4 today just because, I don't need to, but I'm just going to get up earlier on not much sleep and go hit it really hard. Or tomorrow I'm meeting a buddy. We're going to do the Murph, and just like little things like that. It's like you kind of, if you haven't done something like that in a while, you almost get addicted to it. Right. And it seems like you're a guy that just feeds on that kind of next thing, man.
Yeah, so and it's funny. I don't care about medals and stuff, right? I mean, completing my first Ironman was very, very important to me, right? And I've got there's a big reason why I want to complete the next one, the next two, right? I'm doing them back-to-back days, but I don't care about that. I for me, it is simply the going through, just the test, man. I come out the other end, I'm better. Right. Or I crash and burn and I realize, all right, I got some work to do. Right. I mean, hey, I do crash and burn. Right. I mean, and I'm pretty open about it. Like, yeah, that didn't go the way I thought it was. Right. Go back to the drawing board. Right. So I understand. I mean, and I'm doing, for people don't know, I'm doing the Ironman Waco and I'm doing the half Ironman on back-to-back days. Dude, I've been training a lot for it. I ran like 12 miles yesterday and I ran 20 today. So I'm doing a lot of things back-to-back days that I normally wouldn't do. But I also understand, dude, it's still 90 in Texas, 95 in Texas, right? You're in Vegas.
Yeah.
This could end catastrophically bad. I understand that. And I'm okay with that, right? I mean, it's not going to be because I'm not prepared. It's not going to be because I took the easy way out. But, dude, on an Ironman itself, on a half Ironman, there's so many variables that you just can't account for. Now we got hurricanes in the Gulf creeping up and all that, right? So, I mean, there's a lot of things. Anybody that's ever done one knows it's a long day. It's a very, very long day, right? And to creep in and know I got to get up Sunday and I got to go do a half one right after that, man. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, but yeah, I'm excited for the challenge.
It blows my mind, man. You are very open about it. That's something I really admire a lot. Like even you're drinking the beers. Like, I remember telling my wife, I'm like, you got to check this guy out. Look at this, my brother Boyd over. Look what and she's like, his stomach, that's going to end poorly. And then I remember you talking about it like back and forth. Like, yeah, this could end really bad. I don't really know. We'll see. That's kind of the fun to it, right? Like, just see what happens, man. Like you made a great point, I think, too, where, hey, when you push yourself and try and do these crazy things, get outside your comfort zone, there's kind of no losing. Either you accomplish it and you get that reward for it, or, hey, man, you kind of fail forward and you learn, hey, you know what? I need to go back to the drawing board. I need to get stronger, better at this. So there's really no losing, right? And I think a lot of people, that's what holds them back is that fear. But it seems like you kind of conquered that in your mind. Hey, there is no losing, right? I'm either going to win and crush that, or I'm going to learn and get better, right?
Yeah, man, and that holds a lot of people back. Fear for everything, right? A fear of the unknown, right? But if you think about it, fear is it doesn't exist, bro. It's imaginary, right? So once you understand that, it can't be measured, right? You can't touch it, you can't see it, right? It's like trying. You can't try. You either do it or you don't, like what Yoda said, right?
Right.
Fear is the same way, man. And it's just an intangible, it's just an obstacle in the mind. And let's think, what do we fear, right? Well, we fear failure, okay? But like I said, you always fall forward. Sometimes you win, sometimes you grow, right? You learn, right? So failure is just a detour. And I tweeted that out today. Failure is just a detour, right? And then, or you fear pain, you fear suffering. Dude, pain, like I say it all the time, it's temporary. It ends. It is going. And think about it, man. You have growth, right? And I think everybody that we associate with in a growth mindset. Well, if you take growth and you tear off the GR and you tear off the TH, dude, what's left? Ow, right? Pain, ow, right? So
I've never heard that before. I like that.
Yeah, dude. So like when I'm out there hurting, and listen again, dude, I mean, today there's my heart rate. I was just using my watch. I just like, you know what? I'm not going to wear the damn thing. I'm going by perceived effort right now. I'm tired of wearing heart rate monitors. I'm over it. I'm just at the end, right? Let me get to my races. Well, today, man, there was a time, I want to say about midway through that 19th mile, I thought, yeah, dude, I'm about to have cardiac arrest. I'm going to die. This is it, right? And what a way to go. But I mean, I thought like, okay, all right, hold your hands up, get your breath. I mean, I was like, I was there. I was like, shit, I don't want to die right now. I'd like to, see my kids, see my daughter graduate and get married and all that. And so, I mean, it's funny. And I was afraid. I was like, holy shit, man, I pushed it a little too hard this time. But yeah, I mean, but only, like I said, the pain is temporary. It ended. I'm sitting here right now, I'm talking to you and I'm smiling. I'm laughing about it. So there's really nothing to be afraid of ever.
That's a great point, man. I want to even bring it back to where we kind of were before I got us way sidetracked, man. I'm really good at that, getting us sidetracked. But,
Me too.
A point you alluded to too is like, hey, man, there's a pain associated with not doing it too, and I think we see that with a lot of men today, where they're so comfortable, right? We got DoorDash delivered in 10 minutes. We got TV on demand. We got, the house is always between 68 and 72. We're never pushing ourselves, and that was me for 34 years, man. Where I had to live with that pain of being overweight, that pain of being lazy, that pain of knowing I could do better than I was. And so I think you're going to suffer either way, right? And so if we could go back to kind of that time maybe where, you were into fitness, then you started the gym, and then you said, hey, I just kind of burned out and I got away from it. Can you kind of talk through that 4 or 5 year period, what that was like, and then ultimately the birth of your daughter, which sounds amazing and kind of jolted you back, right?
Yeah, man. So it's crazy because it happens, and I say it happens fast. I don't know. I can't tell you. I can look at pictures, right? So I know I left my gym at the end of 13. It's hard. I just can't find a lot of pictures from like 2014 or 15. Mm-hmm. And much of that may be because I was ashamed of them and I just deleted them. I didn't want to see them, right? But it happened so fast that, I mean, I just got so tied up in the move. And then, that whole situation was a whole financial hardship that basically, because of the way I did it, was, I made it a lot harder on us, me and my now ex-wife, than it had to be. Mm-hmm. And so I so busy with the stress of working and all that, just like everybody else, man. So I didn't take care of, and I want to talk about that later, man. I didn't pour the foundation, bro. I didn't fill my cup up, so I couldn't do shit else, right? So the pain, I mean, so it's funny. People would see me, and I know starting about 2016 or 17, right, I started meeting people because, I mean, I've lived here for a couple of years at this point. No one knows that guy that was a competitive bodybuilder and a power lifter, and I look like a professional wrestler at that point, right? And now I've lost all the muscle I've had, right? I mean, I used to walk around at about, I typically stay about 235, that 12% body fat. I'd look like I whooped somebody's ass, right? Shaved head, tattoos, and all that, right? Well, now I've turned into this, like, I'm still 6 foot tall, but now I'm like 275 and I'm fat, bro. And I've got this huge gut, and I don't see that. I still, in my mind, kind of think of myself as that guy, the guy that looked like like I kicked somebody's ass, right? But I ain't kicking nothing. I mean, I could barely walk up the steps without getting short of breath, right? So it's funny. People would see that. They would find me on Facebook or whatever, and they'd find the old pictures, and they're like, dude, do you miss looking like that? In my mind, I thought, well, I kind of still do, right? I mean, I'm still kind of jacked and this, man. So, it's crazy. And then, like, just little things, right? Hanging out with the guys, and you start, shooting basketball, and I realized, holy shit, man, I'm out of breath. Or just the slightest bit of running, just activity, and you're just like, dude, you're just wore out. And you realize, like, holy shit, man, how did that happen? And not to mention, forget all the activity, right? It was just getting out of bed every single day and hurting. Right, aching. And it's so much different than the pain that I feel when I get out of bed right now. I'm like, well, my feet are killing me because I've run 34 miles or whatever in the last 2 days, or I've run 350 miles in the last 8 weeks, right, or whatever I've done.
Yeah.
So it was crazy. Like, it was the pain. I'm telling you right now, the pain because I do is so much better than the pain I had because I didn't, right? So and yeah, to your point, man, you're exactly right. That's exactly the case. Anybody that's suffering right now, dude, that's what happened to me. I just got sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? So,
and that's a great point. I want to touch on that too, where you said if you don't fill yourself up, because I think it's a lie that I bought for a while and a lot of men bought for a while. And it's funny because I only have 2 pictures during about a 2-year period of myself too. And I can remember being at the pool on a family vacation and telling my wife, don't you dare snap that picture. I see my gut hanging over. I don't want to be in these, like that. You do live with that kind of, I don't know. There's just something about that, man. When you wake up every day and you're not your best self, there's a pain associated with that, and I think a lot of people escape that with booze, weed, with football, with whatever they're going to escape it with. Right. And so can you kind of talk about that, what you alluded to earlier about how you got to fill yourself up first? Cause I bought into that lie too, of I'm going to be the greatest husband, dad. And by the end of the day, man, I had given, employee, I had given everything to everybody else, and I just completely burned out, and I had nothing left to give after a month or so.
Yeah, man. So I have a bunch of F's I live by, right? And it's hard not to let one of those F's become football this time of year. But bottom line is, first off, the first thing is your foundation, right? And that right there is establishing that. And I talked about it today on Twitter, that daily routine where you establish your calmness, your clarity, and kind of your mindset, your fortitude to go out throughout the day, right? So just let me have a few minutes in the morning by myself. Let me get hydrated. Let me get my breathing down. Let me I write, I just start writing crazy stuff, right? And it's brainstorming most of the time, and it's just getting it out of my head, right?
Same here, man. All over my desk. Same.
Yeah, dude, it's just getting shit out of my head, right? Because I wake up and I'm like, I got this, and this. All right. So and it's getting all that stuff out, right? So then it's also going over my day, right? Now I have a written schedule. I do. I have got it right here. So I've got this big ass thing here. That's a big written schedule. 9 times out of 10, my days have a list, right? These are things I'm going to do, right? So part of my foundation is reviewing the big things, right? Is making sure that I'm not majoring in the minors. I'm getting the big shit done, right? And the big stuff, right? That's the other S, right? That's my family, okay? I got to write it down. Dude, you got to make it a point. I need to spend time with my children. I need to call my mother. You got to do all that, right? And that's where I fell short. That's why I'm divorced right now, right? Because I did not do that. I'm open about it, right? Then you've got to take care of your fitness, right? And some people say, well, that's your foundation. Well, maybe not. But to me, it's so important that I take care of that, man, because I got to be the best me. I want to live. I want to be alive. I want to be there for, down the road. And there's no guarantees. I can get hit by a cement truck out here. There's a lot of those running around Dallas-Fort Worth. But the bottom line is I'm increasing my chances of surviving longer by taking care of my body. Now, sometimes I'm a little excessive and I beat the hell out of it, but again, there's a good baseline there, right? And obviously you got to take care of your finances, right? You have to. I'm not independently wealthy. I'm not, and that could be anything. That could be that job. But for most people, man, we're in a time right now. If you haven't paid attention the last 2.5 years, a job can go just like that, right? So it's doing everything you can. Make sure you're not burning a bunch of crap money. You're being prudent with your investments, and you're working on creating other streams of income, right? And then I go back down at the bottom there. I say at the bottom, but I don't mean it like it. They're all ones, right? There's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is your friends, right? And I'm not talking about your platitude friends. I'm not talking about people you say hello to. I'm talking about the people that are your ride or die that will do absolutely anything in this world for you, right? We're so connected now, and now we all have shit. Tyler, you got 70,000 friends. I got like 10, whatever, right? So so that's one thing you learn, right? There's some people that I just I've got to remember that I got to pick up the phone. I got to call this guy, and I got to tell him I appreciate him. I love him and thank you for nothing else but just being just unwavering support no matter what I've been through, right? And all that goes back, though. You've always got to remember every single day, you got to go back to that foundation, man. So you got to get that foundation strong. And that doesn't just mean at the beginning of the day. It also means throughout the day, right? You got to take time for yourself. You got to go to be able to get centered and get back to that point of peace and calm to where you're clear and you can you're making the best decisions for you and everybody that matters to you.
That's right, man. And I think that I've wondered, even myself, like looking at you from an outsider, I'm like, how does Boyd get all these things done? He's a dad, he's running 32 miles today, he's all these things, but it sounds like you are very intentional with where your focus goes, and that also means where it can't go, right? And so I think for myself too, I used to say I don't have time to work out when I was in that kind of 2-year dark period. Bro, I watched Game of Thrones, all the way through twice. I think that's a 100-hour show, Yeah. I say football. I'm a football fan, man. I watch highlights of every NFL game at night. Every Sunday night, I take about 40 minutes and I watch all of the highlights from the games and the little 8-minute. You can watch a whole game in 8 minutes, man. I love it. So I'm not knocking on football or anything like that. I'm just saying I used to plan my whole life around that, man. Sure. Like I was almost divorced a second time because I would prioritize that kind of stuff over what matters. And, I've had guys kind of say things to me now, but man, I actually put in my daily to-do list things like, hey, write my wife a little love note, hey, just check in, you mentioned check on in your mom, if you're blessed enough to have your parents still living, give them a call, give your grandparents a call if they're still living, things like that you go on autopilot, you forget to do. So I love that you're so intentional about doing all those things. And then I think that seeps into these other areas of your life too, where if you're that intentional about the little things, you can also be that intentional about the big things and move the needle and say, hey, I want to do an Ironman and the next day a half iron. It's you can't accomplish things like that unless you're really good at those little details.
Yeah, man. I say this all the time. Like having white space on your calendar, dude, allows weeds to creep in, right? So if I got like an extra 35, 45 minutes, man, I'll find myself playing bingo on my phone or some nonsense, right? Now I'm a huge football fan as well. But I mean that like it goes down to like I used to spend my entire life, bro. I mean Saturdays and Sundays we're at the bar, bro.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, spending a ton, dude. I would spend $250, $300 a day on booze,
Yep.
and dude, I mean, just and get wrecked and wake up and sober up by the time where I go do it again at noon on Sunday, right? So now it's like, okay, look, yeah, I'm very specific, right? I am going to watch the University of Tennessee, right? I mean, I just watched that big Florida win the other day, and it was grand, right? But the bottom line is I got up that morning, I worked out. Sunday was my son's 18th birthday. I spent much of the day with him. It's making sure that does not become life, right? Dude, it used to be back in the day, Tennessee would lose and it would wreck me for a week or 2 or 3. I'd be messed up, man. I'd be messed up. Well, some of that has to do with we started losing a whole lot there for a few years, right? but right, I mean even like during our high times now, I'm like, hey, you know what, I think about it, every once in a while I'll read some news or whatever, but it doesn't consume 10 hours a day or 6 hours a day or whatever it does, right?
I think that's a healthy balance, man. I once journaled when I was really getting on my like self-improvement journey that I was done simply watching other men try and be great, and I was going to try and be great myself. That doesn't mean I can't appreciate. I'm a Tom Brady guy, man. I'm gonna watch every highlight, every pass he throws this year. I can't appreciate Aaron Rodgers, some of these guys. I love watching these guys, right? I love watching greatness, but I can't do it at the expense of myself. You can't do it at the expense of yourself, right?
Exactly. Yeah, man. I had such a great appreciation. So like, just some of the greats like Brady, like Kobe, Michael Phelps, Tiger Woods, I just, Peyton Manning. I had to throw the ball in there, right? So,
maybe, yeah, that's when Tennessee kind of went a little downhill for a while after Manning left, right?
Yeah, it's what everybody thinks, right? But we don't understand. We won a national championship the year after he left, right? So,
did you really?
Who was 98 with T. Martin.
Who 98 was
T. Martin.
See, I didn't remember that, man. That goes to show I probably watched that game, and I'm probably
that was 98. We beat Florida State in the national title game. Man, and then we were a half away from going to the national championship again later on in 2001 with Casey Clausen, and then just kind of wheels fell off, right? Yeah, we played in the SEC championship 2007, so now it's been 15 years of pretty bad or mediocrity. So to be 4-0 in the top 10 right now is pretty awesome. But
go, man. Maybe this is the year. This is the year you bring it back, man. The run good on the podcast.
yeah. Fingers are crossed, right? Yeah. So
I like. Well, man, I wanted to get into something here with you too to just kind of almost shift gears. But this 26-day span of what you've accomplished in the last 26 days, I think, is more than I'm probably going to accomplish in a year, man. So can you tell people what you've kind of gone through? And I think this is probably in a lot of prep to your Ironman, then half Ironman next day, right? But what have you kind of gone through, and can we kind of go through these things, man?
Yeah, so it was actually during August and September that 26-day period was. So let me get my days right here. I want to say on August the 9th or so, I went out and I was like, you know what? I was going to run a marathon or run 20 miles, 21 miles. And I hit a marathon. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and go 50K. And I was going at a fast pace, right? I was going to say I was pushing like 7-minute miles for that. And typically if I'm going to run a 50K, I back way off that, right? I don't go anywhere near that, that amount, that pace, right? So it was hot that day. It was like 108, and I did it, and I was like, yeah, that one kind of that I felt that one, right?
So that's like what, 35 miles ish?
31.1 miles, right? So yeah, and I got 31.1 and I shut it down. I was like, so I was sitting there that night and I was like, okay, I did that at that pace, right? And I just started thinking, and then throughout the week I was going through my regular Ironman prep, and then Sunday, man, I was having brunch. There's a little Mexican restaurant about half mile away, and I was having brunch. My son works there, and I went up there and I was having a little late breakfast, early morning lunch, and I thought, you know what, listen, I'm kind of hiding behind the fact that I've got these races in October, right? So we're in August, mid-August, right? About August 12th, 13th. About this point, I decided, you know what, I need to push it, right? Here I'm always telling people like, hey, do more, you can do more. So you know what, I'm going to go run 100 miles on Thursday, and which is the 18th of August, and I'm going to live tweet. right? I'm in. People are welcome to come with me or whatever. I don't, whatever. I mean, I'm gonna get up, and whenever I wake up, the goal is to be up running by 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. But I mean, August 18th in Texas is not. It's hot, right? I mean, you live in Nevada, you get it.
Oh yeah.
So I got up, man, and I slept like 4 hours the night before because I started getting antsy. I set up. I basically turned my house into an aid station, and I took off running, man. And first marathon went down at about a 4-hour pace, which was way too fast for what I was doing. I mean, I can run one a little fast. I can run one faster than that, but I was like, I don't do that pace at 100 miles, right? Yeah. Wow. So my goal was to get as many miles down early as I could, because I knew it was going to suck later on. I knew A, it's going to be 100,000 degrees, and B, we were looking at thunderstorms all day, right? I was like, hey, listen, if I got to walk and sandbag it during the hot part of the day, that's fine, right? So I remember I was doing like every hour I would do like an update, and I did that 6 a.m. one, and I said, hey, this next time I do one, it'll be daylight. And then it hit me after I said that. I'm like, holy shit. And then later tonight, it's going to be dark again, bro, because everybody's going to get up and go through their day, and then it's going to be night. And I'm still going to be running, still have several hours to go, right?
Man.
So I did that, right? So at mile 40, I felt good. At mile 30, 35, I felt good. And then I felt like a pop in my left foot. And I was like, well, that's not good, right? I was hurting. And I looked at a video at mile 40. I didn't know what planet I was on. And then it started 45. It started storming, but I felt great, right? But I still not taking that shoe off. Realized probably at about mile 65, my foot was broken. It was no doubt, right? So I had friends join me at mile 76 and a half to finish it out with me. And I decided, hey, let me wash my feet, because my feet they got rained on and everything. We'll change shoes. I'm going to get them clean. I took my shoe off, and I saw that foot was black, right? And I was like, okay, well, that's not good. So put a shoe back on. And so I did the first 76 and a half meils in 15 hours, like on the dot. It took me 10 hours to do the last 23 and a half. I could not run. I may have ran a mile, dude. I was walking, and I was doing it for nothing, right? So that was a big thing. Right. I was like, I'm not stopping. Man. I'm not going to quit. And I had Brian Gates with me. He's a friend of mine. We met through Twitter, and he lives here.
Awesome, man. Yeah. He's in Texas too. That's right. He's a great dude.
Yeah, kid's a monster, right? And I felt bad, man, because I made his ass walk 23 and a half miles with me at the slowest pace possible. And I was dying. But the funny thing was, I would glance at my like Twitter mentions and stuff, and people were like, I know you're hurting, but you're smiling. And I didn't, it was almost, I was doing it unconsciously, right? I didn't mean to do it. But even Brian was saying, I was laughing and I was joking the entire time. And I was like, all I could think about was, man, this sucks. This is brutal. Right. So we finished that. And then, I decided that day I was like, dude, we finished at like 4 a.m.
I was going to say that's over 24 hours, right?
Yeah, so 25 even.
So then you sleep for like 13, 14 hours after that? Or what's the recovery?
I slept like 4 hours. I woke up and I was like, I don't have to get up. Right. But I could barely walk. So my foot was killing me. So I go through that next day, and then, the weekend and stuff. And I start, I think I ran on Sunday, right? Or Monday, right? I was like, I got to get back to training. I've got Ironman coming up. So I started running and I started training again. And then like the end of that week, same thing. Sunday, I go up, have brunch at my little Mexican restaurant. I'm sitting there and I'm like, so this is not that. So it's not 2 days after, this is 9 days after. Right. And I'm like, you know what? I think I'm gonna do an Ironman this week. So Wednesday, it looks good on my calendar. I'm going to go do an Ironman. So I go to the pool and I start swimming, and I'm like, I'm still not a good swimmer, right? So I put down to swim, and I got my 2.4, and I'm like, man, I'm going to do the bike. I'm going to do the bike on the trainer, which sucks. 112 miles on the bike trainer is brutal, right? But I was like, I don't even want to go home and do it. So I just keep swimming. So I swam 3.6 miles, come home, ride the 112 on the bike trainer, which was absolutely tormenting. Well, the funny thing was, so I selling my house, right? And like I had to get my air conditioner repaired, right? So I did not put one and one together. This was the same day this was happening. So this air conditioner tech shows up, cuts my damn air conditioner off, and I'm upstairs for 112 miles, dude. It's like 95 degrees inside, which is way worse than 100 outside, right? And I'm dying, bro. I got a fan.
That's after a 3.6 mile swim, which how long does a 3.6 mile swim take, man?
It took me right at 2 hours to do it. Yeah, right at 2 hours. So then I'm on the bike. So the bike was way slower than I normally want to do it. And then I go out to run the marathon at whatever time it was. And I was like, as soon as I walked outside, I was like, oh, it's brutal hot. So I did the 26.2 and I finished that one out. And then so a couple of days later, hey man, I've got a crazy dog. He's barking. Can I let
go
him
for
out?
it, man. We'll just
Right, sorry. I thought he was
no.
asleep.
This is anybody who's watching us here on YouTube, man. This is some wild stuff. You're talking to a man here with an absolute elite mindset that just, I kind of think of myself as pretty strong mentally. When I hear this champion talk, it is wild, man. I got a lot of questions leading up, but all right, keep going, man. So okay, you finished the Ironman. Now you're a few days later, and what are we cooking up?
Yeah, so I'm sitting, same thing. So I go up. I set on Sunday. I go up again. I'm having brunch at the Mexican restaurant. They've got a bunch of dishes that I really, really like, right? And it's literally a short walk or a golf cart ride away, right? So I don't go anywhere, man. I very rarely leave the house. I mean, I'm kind of a hermit, right? I work from home, I train at home, and so I'm sitting there and I decide, I'm like, you know what? It was funny. I'm talking to a kid and he's talking about hash runs. I'm like, hey, I used to do those, man. I've done those before, like where you drink some beer and you run. He goes, could you imagine drinking like a 12-pack and running like a half marathon? This kid's like a national, like he was state champion 3 times in high school cross country, just up at a high school up the street, right? So the kid's a runner. Yeah. He could smoke, right? He just tears it up. So we start talking about it. And I start doing the math, and I'm like, man, I start thinking, well, a 13-mile run to me is not a big deal, right? It's not.
Well, if you're doing hundreds, that's a warm up, man.
Yeah. So I was like, dude, I wonder if I could drink a case of beer and run a marathon. And I start thinking, I don't even know I don't even know where to start, right? I don't even know how I'm gonna do this. I haven't been drinking a ton, right? So I've been in training forever. And I didn't drink anything for until May or June from December, right? So I took 6 or 7 months off. I hadn't had a drop of alcohol. And I mean, I'm still not tying one on nonstop or anything, but I started thinking, I was like, first off, I don't even know if I can drink a case of beer anymore. Second off, I don't know how do you do it? Because it's going to suck. You said, the stomach, man, it's going to be brutal. Yeah. So I decided yeah, man, let's find out Tuesday. So this is 13 days after the Ironman. So I decide hey, I'm going to drink 3 or 4 or 5 and then get started. Well, I start drinking. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make it a power hour. So I drink 8 in an hour. And then I go out and run a 5K. And I'm like, this is a terrible idea. There's nothing good about this, right? So I'm drinking one. I'm carrying them with me and I'm drinking 1 or 2. And I'd stop and drink 1 and run and stop. Bottom line is, I think I hit 18 by mile 9. Or something like that, right? And then so it was all right, I need to run some, quit this drinking. So my goal initially was, let me see if I can do this thing in 6 hours. I didn't know if that was just some arbitrary number. I pulled up with. It took me 8.5 hours to run the 26.2. It was a lot of walking, a lot of stopping. I'd come home and I'd drink a couple beers and then go run. And then once I hit 24, I don't remember exactly what point I hit 24. I was like, oh man, might as well just keep drinking now. So I ended up finishing number 30, right about the time I finished the 26.2. And then,
man, what did you feel like at the end of that? And I mean, some of your videos are just, do you even remember shooting some? You're just laughing. You're like, I don't even know what's going on here.
Well, I lost my shirt.
Yeah. What did your body feel like the next day? And what was that experience like, man?
Okay. So this is funny, right? So I hit that 30 beer, 26.2 mile mark. Right up by the place where my happy place, right? It's where the neighborhood lake and there's the fountain and everything. And so many times during Ironman prep, I've run by there and the sun's coming up, right? The sun hits the water and it makes me happy, right? Well, that happens to be where I finished, right? I'm sitting there as a pit. So no, I watched the videos the next day. I don't remember most of them. I was like, holy shit, man, what am I talking about? And I'm I'm glad I didn't say something stupid to get canceled on the internet, right? But anyway, and that happens to be literally 250 feet from my little Mexican restaurant. So I walked in there, dude, I'm all dirty and sandy. I mean, I left salt on me. And I walked in and said, hey, let me get a michelada, right? I was I always see those. I was like, man, load it up with salt. I want the full salt. And I sat and had dinner. And I ended up sitting up there and they're like, you did what? And I told the guy, the kid, I'm like,
who is this crazy guy saying he drank 30 beers today and ran a marathon?
I was chafed up, man. My armpits with all the salt, right? I don't know. It was weird because alcohol's a diuretic. So I was putting so much salt out that it chafed me up, right? I was bloody under my armpits. And that doesn't happen. That didn't happen when I ran 100. Now I'm a little more careful about it when I run 100. I put lube up and stuff and all that. But dude, yeah, man.
So were you drinking waters in between them or food?
Yeah.
What else were you trying to do to make sure you get through that? Because I mean, I was thinking while you're running and watching these videos, like you've just got to be so dehydrated. And again, I know you're in Texas. I'm like, dude, it's probably 100 degrees, like,
oh yeah. It was like 105. Yeah, dude. So I was drinking water in between, and I had this plan. I had all this food I was going to eat, and that went out the window. I started drinking. I was like, oh hell, I'm just gonna keep drinking. So I was taking base salt, and I think I ate some potato chips. I think at one point I was running up my street with a bag of my son's like Takis, dude. They were hot as hell, and I was like, I don't give a shit. I'm starving. Yeah, it was total degenerate behavior. It wasn't my proudest moment, but there was a point, right? So I want people to know, right? You don't have to be, because they see the runs, they see the when I'm intense and all that. You don't always have to be that. It's okay. Guys like they'll like piss a weekend away, or they'll have a wild Sunday, and then they'll decide, man, the week shot, there's no reason to work out. Well, that's not true. Just get back on it, right? You can have fun. You can, right. You're not a robot, right? And we see a lot of that on social media, especially. People, if you just look at their social media, you're looking at their highlights, and you believe they're a monk, and nothing in the world is further from the truth, man. I know a lot of these guys, right?
That's right. Yeah.
I'm a fuck up, right? And a lot of these guys are too, right? So, that's the thing that's important, right? Yeah, man, you need better days. You need more solid days and more wins than not. But if you fall, you slide back a little bit, man. Just get back on the horse, right? So
I think that's why I appreciate you and your message so much. And I resonate a lot with like a Zach Hommel and a lot of these guys who are very real and authentic and say exactly what you just said. I think perfection is the enemy of progress, right? Like these people, and it is a highlight reel a lot of times on social media. And I tweeted out a few days ago, man, hey, I don't feel like coming to the gym today at all. And in all honesty, dude, if I got 365 days in a year, bro, I'm a self-motivated guy, but probably, every bit of 200 of them, I don't feel like getting out of bed in the morning. I don't. If I'm very honest with you or anybody else, you just got to make yourself. And some days you just got to say, you know what, man, like I'm going to get a C+ kind of workout in, right? Even a D- workout in some days, but I'm just going to get through it, and then I'm going to wake up the next day. I'm going to get through it again and get through it again. And that's how you really build, man. It's not that Boyd here feels motivated to go do all these things every time, right? It's that you learn to embrace that suck and power through whether you feel like it or not,
Yeah, man, I'm just like the same. I lost motivation a long time ago, right? So, yeah, I'll be sitting there, dude. I'm like, I will sit and procrastinate, especially like if I start getting close to like I've got a call or a coaching call or something I got to do. I got to talk to a client. I'm like, oh, you know what? That's 3 hours away. I think you do it after, right? Now I will do it, right? But I will procrastinate my ass off. I'm terrible about that. And just like, and that's something important. Like I don't wake up every day dying to jump out of bed. Today I felt really good. I was like, hey man, I woke up. I'm like, I slept well, but I'm the same way, man. At least half the time I'm like, I got to do this right here, especially at the end of Ironman training, dude. I typed it up and I don't think I ever sent it the other day for whatever reason, but I'm over it. I'm over training for Ironman. I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to go swim anymore. I love the bike. I don't want to ride my bike anymore. I enjoy running, but I'm like, dude, I just want to go lift weights. Talk to everybody in the gym and do all that, right? But it's not. And that's the thing. Once you do it for so long and just it becomes a part of you. And motivation dies, right? The key is being disciplined. When that feeling that I have right this minute, talking about all this stuff I want to do and I'm doing, and I'm comfortable, right? When this feeling goes away and I'm tired and I don't feel well, it's cold outside or it's hot outside, and my daughter doesn't feel well and I got all this shit going on, then that's when you have to rely on discipline, and you just got to do it anyway.
Yeah, whether you feel like it or not, man. Well, what's it like? Can I get inside your mind for a minute when you're at, like, let's say, you do this 100-mile run, right? And you look down at your feet at 50+ miles and you realize, dude, I'm halfway there. And I think my foot is broken and every step is painful. And it, like you said, you alluded to it. I'm kind of laughing in my head where you think this isn't even for a race. This is just for something I made up. Like, and I'm sure your mind is telling you every step, bro, just go be comfortable. Go lay in a warm bed. Go. I set just this arbitrary number to do 750 pull-ups in a day, like a little while back. And I remember it was like 9 o'clock at night and I still had like 150 to go. And at that point, I'm doing like 4 at a time. I couldn't do any more. And everything in my head is telling me nobody else cares. Your wife's still going to love you, your kids, nobody else cares. But then I just told myself it's all about, if I told myself I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. So where do you go to in that place when you mile 50, mile 60, 70, 80, when you can barely even walk? Where do you go to keep going, man?
Well, first off, I mean, I always go back to this. This is going to end, right? But like you said, there was. I mean, I wasn't getting paid to do that, right? Nobody would care, you know. And even if I thought everybody would care, nobody would care because people are busy with their own shit. Nobody's paying attention to me and my dumb ass on social media.
Well, I'll admit, man, I was tuning in that beer day, man. I was up there. I'm more like, I don't consume a ton of content. I was checking back that day to just see what crazy stuff you were saying in some of those messages later, man.
Yeah, but I mean, so like when I make a commitment to do something, dude, it's a contract with myself. Okay. And for me, and you're right, nobody would care. And hell, half people wouldn't even know. And there's not a grand scheme of things. I'm talking about, I mean, if all your followers and all Zuby's followers and all of Dan Go's followers all watch, that's still not a lot of people in the grand scheme of things, right? Let's think about that, right? So, you're talking, so we have 2 million people. Well, there's, 8 billion in the world or whatever we have now, or 9, but whatever we have. So it's still not a big deal. It's still not a big thing. But for me, it's just having that. I had a contract with myself. And yeah, was I going to regret keep going? Yeah, dude, for a day or two, I regretted it. I mean, I was hurting, man. I mean, and I was like, you know what? You can say, quiet it out, ignore it. Dude, when your foot is broken and then, I just saw the pictures of my feet, right? I had these big giant blisters just hanging off and they were full of fluid. And I mean, every step was excruciating, right? I mean, it like I could say, tune it out. I could say, ignore it. I could say it's going to end, but the bottom line was I felt every single step. But one part of that was, and I think, and this is, and 100 miles has a lot of parallels with life itself. And this is the biggest one. If you think about 100 miles as 100 miles, dude, the enormity of that is, I mean, it's just incomprehensible, right? It's too much to think, especially when you're 35, 40% done and you're absolutely miserable, right? So the key is to just think about it, to break it down, right? I don't even like thinking about it a mile, because in my mind, a mile is 1%. Like, oh shit. I mean, in a mile, there's days like I run a mile. I'm like, this is terrible. I don't want to do this again. Right. And it's funny though, every time I've done it, dude, and you get to like mile 80, you're like, or mile 74, right? You're like, I'll just have a marathon to go. Dude, a marathon, people train their whole lives for a marathon.
That's right, man.
Right. So you can't, I mean, it's funny, the only thing you can think about, and this is why they call it ultra running. The second you go over 26.2 miles, any step you take could be your last. And you don't know where it's coming from, why it's coming. Dude, I ran a 50K one time, and it was the same. It was 2 years before I ran my 100. I ran a 50K on my own, no reason. And it was brutal, right? And I started at like 6 a.m., right? I did it the worst possible time. And I wasn't that good of a rider. I'd been running. It was after Ironman, it was during COVID. So I was about 225. And I was like, I'm going to go run. I hadn't run more than 8 miles. And dude, I remember like the 28 or 29 mile mark, I saw some sprinklers, man. It was hot. And I saw some guy sprinklers in his yard. So I decided, dude, I'm just going to lay here for a minute. And I laid down the dude's yard and let the sprinklers hit me, and they only go over like once every 30 seconds, right? And I'd never been happier. And I'm like, that's terrible behavior. I mean, that tells you, like, I mean, so I'm over 26.2 miles. Dude, I can't imagine anything like that happen to me at mile 24, 25. I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna walk, right? But I'm mile 29, and that made perfect sense. I'm laying in a stranger's yard. People are driving by, and I'm laying in a guy's yard. I look like I'm dead, right? That's ultra running. That's crazy. Second it goes over a marathon, dude, everything's out the window. And you could be doing great, you can be fine, but man, it can
is it something that just gets easier as you do it more and more? And you talk about that contract to yourself. Is that something that also gets easier? Because that, there's a lot of times too where I'm sure you hear this, like, you're a great coach and you coach elite level athletes, but when you're talking to guys about mindset, make that contract with yourself, right? Now, for some guys, that can just mean, hey man, get up at 5 a.m. when the alarm goes off and get a walk in. For some guys, it can mean run 100 miles, right? But how do you kind of relate that to other people, that contract with yourself? Because I think if you can solve that one thing in life, when I promise myself I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it, you can literally be successful at anything you want, whether that be fitness, whether that be business, relationships, whatever that is, if you can solve that one thing. So does that get easier just as you do it? Or can you kind of talk about that process, or how do you kind of instill that into other people too?
Well, first, it's important, Ty, to understand that your hard and my hard is not the same as everyone else's hard, right? What's hard for you or what's hard for, client A or whatever, it's different, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be running 100 miles. It doesn't have to be run 1 mile, right? It could be get your ass up at 5 a.m., right?
Yeah.
But the key is you really have to learn to become comfortable getting uncomfortable. And I hate to use cliche, but you have to do it. The more you do it, the more that comfort zone begins to expand, right? And the bigger it expands, and people think, man, you're just never uncomfortable. Yes, I am. I'm uncomfortable all the time, right? I just better just like, fuck it. It doesn't matter. It's not going to change, right? So the key is, first off, don't compare yourself to anyone else. Man, I'm not racing. I'm not comparing myself to Cameron Haynes or David Goggins or whoever, right? I'm just doing me, man. I'm just going out and doing me, right? Now, there was a time, right? So let me back this up. Let me go back to October 15th, 2018. This is the first point I decided, all right, man, I got to act like I got some damn sense, because I got a little baby girl that's beautiful, and I'm not going to be around much longer if I don't get my shit together. So I decide, you know what? I'm an athlete. At this point, I'm ignoring the fact I'm 275, 280 pounds, right? And I hadn't done anything in going on 5 years at this point. Well, I decided I'm going to go for this run at my house, man, up my street. I'm going to go run 3 miles. Anybody can run 3 miles. Dude, I used to run 3 miles in my sleep. Took off up that hill, dude. I did not make it 1,000 feet. I'm not sure I made it 500 feet, bro. And I was done. I couldn't breathe. I hurt from head to toe. I wanted to cry. I was dry heaving. I was about to die. I sat down and I just like, holy shit, man, this is bad. I walked my ass back home, devastated. Okay. Now I didn't, dude. I went back. I was like, I might as well start drinking vodka because I'm just shit out, right? Go forward almost 2 months. December 12th, 2018. Man, I just like, hey, the spark was there. I was like, I got to go do something. Let me go try this run again. Let me get further this time than I did last time, right? It took me 2 damn months to do it. 2 months. So I run up the hill, dude, and I may have made it 100 feet further than I did that time. But this time I was like, you know what? I can't let this die. I gotta take advantage of it. So I walked my ass back home, right? Fat and blown out, looked like Elvis in the late years, about the same age. Elvis was 42 when he died. I think I was 42 when this happened. Come home, I had a Peloton. And I got my ass in that Peloton. I pedaled it for 2 hours, right? It was slow, bro. I'm not saying I was on there being Lance Armstrong. I'm not erasing who I am now. 2 hours, right? I go to bed that night. And dude, 2 a.m. And it does it now, man. If things aren't going right, dude, I'll wake my ass up 2:30, 3 o'clock, the witching hour, wide awake, right? Like, oh shit, got off. I woke up and I was like, I'm thinking about everything. I'm thinking about where I'm at, how far I've fallen. And I'm like, dude, I got to do something. So it's 2:33 a.m. in the morning. We had moved that Peloton into the media room, right? Media room because it's nice and dark. We had Christmas trees up. December. We had 3 Christmas trees in the house. The only place we had left for it was in the media room. So I go in the media room, dude, and I grab a bunch of waters. I go in there and I just set them down like on the TV stand, right? And I get on there and I'm like, you know what? I don't need light. I don't need the distraction of TV. I don't need the distraction of one of these girls on this damn Peloton screen yelling at me, right? All I'm going to do is pedal in the dark. And I pedaled that bike for 4 hours. I didn't know anything about fueling. I didn't care about fueling. I didn't care. I may have had a Nutri-Grain bar, bro. It may have been my fuel. But I needed to prove to myself that I can do something, right? I got off that bike and I decided like, hey, I need to do something. Because I got this spark, right? And I need to fan it and turn it into a flame, right? So I signed up for a Spartan race, a 5K. And at that time I thought, oh, this is 6 months away, dude. I need 6 months to run 5K. That's how far gone I was, right? So I go to work. I tell everybody, like, hey, I just signed up for this damn Spartan race. I'm showing them the videos, man. I'm pumped up. They're looking at me like, dude, you're going to be drinking and stay fat and this and this and this. They don't know the guy I used to be that I still know, right?
Yeah.
So I go home. And I'm kind of like, whatever, so I'm like, well, I think I go for, I do some push-ups or something, right? Something, nothing intense, right? Dude, I opened my laptop up. I'm like, you know what? 5K is not going to be enough. So I signed up for an Ironman. Now here's the worst part. Full transparency. When I signed up, dude, I didn't know how far an Ironman was. I just found it. I was like, the last one is Arizona. It's November 24, 2019. That gives me 11 months. Sign my ass up for it, dude. And then I start like watching videos and stuff, and I learned like, dude, I thought it was a 1 mile swim, a 50-mile bike ride, and like a 10-mile run. Then I found out, oh shit, it's 2.4 mile swim, 112-mile bike, and a 26.2 mile run. So I signed up. I'm like, well, hell, now I'm already committed. I'm already deep into this thing financially. So I was like, you know what? No turning back, burn the boats, man. And I did everything I could do. My life became about, I was still working 68 hours a week, right? And I was still, I have a baby. 2 weeks after this, my now ex-wife, she fell on a ladder messing with Christmas lights and shattered her leg. So I had to be her nurse. I had to get my son to school. I had to get the baby taken care of, fed. I was a chauffeur. I was a chef. I was a nurse. Had everything, man, everything. Then I had a job to work, right? But here's the thing, man. I found if it was 7 minutes at a time, bro, I would go out and run around my yard. 7 minutes. I may get 4/10 of a mile or 2/5 of a mile. But I had a lot of those short runs out in my yard because I had to stay close enough. So I had a little walkie-talkie thing, right? So if my daughter started crying, I could run back in the house, right? I had many 6 and 7 and 10-minute rides of Peloton that stopped, go take care of the baby, get back on the Peloton. Stop, dude. I was the first one up and the last one in bed every single day. But the bottom line was, man, I was not going to be tonight. I was going to do it no matter what. And that was about that contract with myself. I became obsessed. And it's vilified to become obsessed with something, right? But I had to do that because if I don't become that, dude, there's a good chance I'm not even here right now. I'm damn sure not the person you see right now. I'm not the person running 100 miles or drink a case of beer and running marathons. But there's a good chance, dude, when I went in the hospital, they were like, you're not having a heart attack, but brother, you're close, right? You got to straighten it up, man. And that's, and I mean, if I don't come to that point, if I don't get obsessed, there's a great chance that I'm not sitting right here right now.
That's amazing. That's an unbelievable story, man, that in that short of time too, you can go from not even running 1,000 yards to now going out and running 100 miles. And I think that just shows that you don't need to do the 100 miles in one day. You just need to start wherever you're at and just compete with yourself every day, get a little bit farther. And man, you look back a year from now, 2 years from now, you don't recognize yourself, and that's a great message to anybody listening out there to just run your own race, as you said, and just start, that's amazing, man. And dude, I could talk to you all day, brother. I love your energy and you're just incredibly inspiring. I do want to touch upon one more thing here is that you're coaching too, because I know you do elite level coaching. You help other guys. If somebody's out there listening to this right now and they would want to contact you or get a hold of you, what's your primary thing that you do in coaching?
Man, I do typically 90% of my clients are men. I do work with some females. It just depends, right? I mean, dude, it for more than anything it's just for people that want to be better, that may feel like they're stuck. Now, I do actually consult with some professional athletes, right? But that's a very small part of what I do, right? I like working with somebody that is in that hole, right? That's in that rut, that wants to climb out of it. Because Ty, the only difference between a rut and a grave is the depth. And where I was at in my rut, dude, it was at least 6 foot deep, right? I couldn't see over the edge of the dirt to get out. And I know there's people that feel stuck. They just feel like I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, but it's a vicious cycle. You have no energy, so you don't feel like working out. You work out, you're just dead, and you're discouraged of where you're at, right? And it just feels like it's insurmountable, that you're too old, you're too busy, or you're just too far gone. And that's the people I love working with. Like, you're not too far gone. You can, and your goals don't have to be Ironman, don't have to be running ultra runs, don't have to be a bodybuilding show or anything like that. Man, your goal may be walking in, to have dinner with your family on Thanksgiving that you haven't seen in 6 months, and you just want them to say, holy fuck, what happened to you, bro? And I get a charge out of that, right? Because I know the way I felt when people started saying, it's like, dude, you're a different person, right? Where, and then they just wanted to talk to me about it. And I mean, and just the effect that it's had, the ripple effect it's had on people in my life. They're like, dude, this guy went out and ran an Ironman, and in their mind, I did it in 3 months, right? they don't know that there was 11 months and there was a lot of times where I was like, shut up, I'm going to do this, right? But I mean, and if the ability to give other people that, right? Let me help one person and let that person inspire 5 people or 10 people. Man, that's what it's about for me.
And that's how we change the world, brother. I love that mission. I feel like everybody who's successful has the same mindset of I just want to help other people and pour into other people, man. That's been the theme of all these great people I get a chance to talk to on this podcast that I've learned from. And you're one now that I'm really thankful for you to come on. And again, we're going to link everything Boyd does below, man. If you don't follow this man on Twitter, on YouTube, we got to put his website down below. We'll put all of his links to coaching. If you feel stuck and want to get that jolt and change your life, man, please reach out to Boyd. This guy's an absolute champion. But yeah, it's just people that feel, hey, I was in these low spots. I found a way to get out, and I want to help other people get out too. And it's so magnetic. I think that what you alluded to is other people see you kind of living on fire. Hey, I want that too, And so that's how we change the world, man. One person at a time. Then they got a spark and they change somebody. I love how you said that, man.
Yeah, man. My grandfather used to say, build your fire so high that people cannot help but come and get warmth and light. Right. And I've always kind of lived by that. I mean, the energy you see, people that meet me offline, I'm the same guy. I mean, I rant, I carry on. Yeah. I mean, there's sometimes when I'm tired and I'm cranky and all that. I'm just like everybody else, right?
Humans, man. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I genuinely, the intensity, people see, man, you curse too much. Well, no shit. I know that, right? I've known that since I was like 7, right? I used to get in trouble for it, right? But I mean, I'm just very, very passionate. And that's, and I'm, like I said, I grew up in Southeast Kentucky, man. I mean, I took my SAT with a crayon, for Christ's sake, right? So,
it bothers me sometimes when people will say, "Oh, Ty, you're too intense." You mentioned it earlier. You're too obsessed with these things. Well, brother, if you're not going to get fired up about your life, we're only here one time, right? Like, I don't really want to get to the end of my life and think, well, I played it safe and I was pretty even keel the whole time. I'd rather get obsessed and see how far I can go and see the impact I can make and go with these things. I have a hard time resonating with other people who are on that other end of the spectrum that don't understand. And I think that's why I was drawn to you right away when I found you on Twitter. I was like, man, I like the people who I know if I met you in real life, it'd be the same thing. It'd be a big bear hug. You'd be the same human being, because I think I've met 300-400 people off Twitter now. And that's the one thing I pride myself on a lot. Hey, I'm gonna be the same person day in and day out. I'm gonna admit my flaws, this and that. And I appreciate people that share in that way, because I think too many times people can see those highlights from some of these platitude accounts and just think, well, what's the point, man? These guys are getting up and killing the gym every day. They're doing this. And it's like, it's good to let people know, hey man, we fall sometimes. You've been in some of these really low places, right? But you fought really hard and dug yourself back out. And now look at all these awesome things you're accomplishing. And hey, if you can do it, they can do the same thing with their life and just create a vision and a path for themselves too, right?
Yeah, man. And you're 100% right. We're here one time, right? Why not be obsessed with all of it? Everybody, just be average, right? Dude, you can be a great father. You can be in great shape. You can be great at your job or your company, or be a great husband. You can be great at all that stuff, right? And there's no reason to just settle on one thing. And I mean, if I can do it, anybody can do it, man. And we talk about, like, you get at the end, you're like, hey, I lived to even kill, dude. I was driving one day and it just came to me. I was thinking about it, like, and I actually did a video on it. Like, I think, so right now I'm 46 years old, and I wonder what it would be like. And dude, I might get emotional talking about this, right? But if I could meet my 8-year-old self and my 88-year-old self, right? And my 8-year-old self would say, dude, I know what he would say. Hey, we're going to play shortstop for the Cincinnati Reds. Can't wait, right? You're going to be shortstop for Cincinnati Reds. We're going to do this. We're going to travel. We'll see the world. And then I would be, you'll meet my 88-year-old self. And he'd be like, man, we just kind of, like you said, just even kill, kind of lived however, right? And, and I'm like, holy shit, man, that's not what I want to be. I've talked to both these people. That's not where I want to be. And they're talking 42 years from now. I meet that guy and he's telling me, like, I'm just, like, it didn't get any better. And I say, okay, you know what? Give me 1 year. Because I'm going to train, I'm going to do this Ironman. I'm going to go run 100 miles and do all this stuff, right? And I come back and I meet this 9-year-old, right? And I say, check this out, dude. We swam 2.4 miles or whatever, right? Ran 100 miles, did this marathon. We don't have to talk about the beer drinking to the little kid. I was like, hey, is that something to be excited about, right? Yeah, I think so. I think that'd be right. And then I meet that 89-year-old man. And I'm like, hey, how was that? Right. I mean, is that something, is that year we went all in? Is that something, to look back of and say, man, hey, check this out. I ain't talking about living in the past, but I'm saying, hey, I did run 100 miles at one time. Did it 3 times, right? I did an Ironman triathlon. I did an Ironman and a half Ironman on back-to-back days. I drank a case of beer, whatever, right? And saying that year, how was that year? And he said, man, you're talking about that year like that was the end. Brother, that's the year you got started. What's next, right? So that's what I decided, man. I decided that, and it started back in my year from 42 to 43, and that's the way I want to live my life now. I want to assume that I'm going to meet that man, and I want him to tell me, keep going, brother. It gets better.
Bro, I got massive chills and I'm fired up as hell right now, man. That's really powerful image, man. I love that your future self. I got an opportunity, man. You'd appreciate this story, I think, to volunteer at a nursing home pre-COVID. And so we were going once a month. And so I got to know a lot of these people. We went for about a year and a half. And I'll tell you what, some of these people in their 90s, they know it's their last stage of life. And so they're very open with you. And when you get to know them, and I heard over and over again, I always had a real knack for this or a talent for this. My friends told me I should have started a business at this, but I got busy with life. We got comfortable. I always felt like I could have pushed harder at this thing. Nobody told me that their regrets ever were going all in or a failed business, or no one ever mentioned that of the 100 people I got to talk to. Every regret I heard was that I didn't push harder, that I didn't jump more, that I didn't try and see what I was made of. Now I'm to the end and I can never know. And so I think you just hit the nail on the head right there, man. Anybody listening to this can say, wherever you're at, today can be day one, baby. Dig yourself out and fricking start to live the rest of your life on fire, man. You got me fired up, man. I got a client call after this, brother, and that client's gonna get he's gonna get the highest version of me, man. I tell you what.
Yeah, man. I mean, and you said it, man. I mean, there's no place with more wasted potential than a cemetery. I think about that, right? I mean, there's tons of people. I mean, like I said, I've never heard anybody ever say they regretted by going too hard, right? Or by chasing their dreams or chasing who they're supposed to be,
right,
with everything they have. No one's ever regretted that.
That's right, brother. All right, we got a few minutes here to wrap up, Boyd, but I'm gonna end it with, I always end with rapid fire questions, man. So I'm gonna give you quick 5 questions. Just hit me with your first thought, man, and we'll see inside the mind of Boyd Myers. Here we go.
Hey, we're not live, and you can edit this, right?
That's true, man. Yeah, we can edit some of this stuff.
Okay, no, I'm joking.
All right, man. This one I'm interested in. What's the hardest thing physically or mentally you've ever gone through? This can be a race or this can be something in life.
Hardest thing mentally, physically, right? So different times in your life, there's different hard, right? So, but I can tell you this right here. When I left for Baghdad when my son was 3 months old, and I went and was gone for almost 2 years. I missed his first steps. I missed his first words. And back in 2005, 2006, man, video cameras weren't very good.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I'd get like this fuzzy ass video camera. So missing that was absolutely the hard part. I remember walking away from that airport and, seeing this beautiful 4-month-old baby laying in his stroller and not knowing, will I ever see him again? I mean, that was I didn't come home for almost 2 years, Ty. So I missed everything. I couldn't leave. The job I had, I just couldn't leave. And I missed a lot of I missed a lot of milestones, and I'm thankful that I have my daughter. She just turned 4 back in July. I've been fortunate enough to not miss anything with her. So you don't get do-overs, but that's as close, and that's as close as I get now. Now it's just, he turned 18 on Sunday, and man, it's to see the man he's growing into, and I'm like, man, I'd love to have that back, but man, I'm proud of you right now.
That's awesome, brother. I appreciate that. And I just want to say a special thanks to you, man, and everybody military, the sacrifices they make, man. It's for the daily freedoms we get and to get to do what we do, man. I think it's just, you can't speak enough on it. And I know you're doing a fundraiser right now that I gave a little to, and fired that off on Twitter. I hope that we've hit that goal. I think by the time this airs, that'll be over. But any kind of fundraiser you're doing in the future for military families, man, please include me or tag me, because I'd love to get involved in any way I can, man.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. All right, this one, I don't know if some of the guys like you don't listen to music when you run, so I don't know if this will be a thing. But let's say you need to get to that extra level, man. What are you doing trying to hit a PR, or maybe you're in the 100th mile? What song or what kind of motivational thing are you putting on in that moment?
All right. So it's funny. First off, I do like during 100, I didn't listen to a lot of music. I just, for whatever reason, I just didn't. But today I did listen to music. I listened to music nonstop today. And so I don't know if you saw the splits of my run. So my thing was I didn't want 1 mile over 8 minutes, which is pretty easy for me, right? But mile 6, miles 12, and the last 3 were going to be everything I had. Right. So the goal was like, they got to be sub 6s. They were, one of them was under, actually I broke 5:30 on one of them.
Man, that is.
But so I was like, so that last 3 miles, when I come up to that, like when I hit 17, right? So I'm going 18, 19, 20, all out. Dude, I was like already like, I just ran. It started thinking like, the enormity of it thought like it hit me, right? Like, oh shit. Dude, I put the Rocky 4 training montage on.
Oh yeah.
Repeat. I listened to that damn thing on repeat for the last 3 miles. Took me roughly, like I said, I don't know, 17 minutes or so to hit those 3 miles, 18 maybe. Dude, the last mile, I threw up. I wanted to drink water. It was just water all over me. I didn't care. I was running down the road, slobbers flying out. People were like, "Look at this jackass!" Right?
That is the greatest movie of all time and the greatest soundtrack of all time.
I agree, dude.
I can literally name No Easy Way Out, Hearts on Fire.
Oh yeah,
bro. You got War. You got this is the most fire epic soundtrack ever, man. I love it.
Living in America, James Brown,
dude. Yes,
dude. Yeah. So I had Vince Nicola, freaking. I'm thinking of Rocky chopping that tree, running up that mountain. I'm thinking of Drago getting the roids. I'm like, dude, I'm fired up, man. But I was like, at some point, man, I think I switched to going the distance from Rocky 1 or 2. No, it's Rocky 2, right? When she says win.
Yeah. Oh, bro, that part where she comes out of the coma and he says, she goes, "Come here, I want to tell you something. Just win." And then the music comes in the background. Boom, boom. And then all he does is lift shoulders in the next training. Have you ever noticed?
Oh, that? I know, dude. So I almost stopped running. I should have stopped running and started just doing shoulders, doing some freaking loud raises. Boy, I
freaking love Rocky. I need to get my kids watching Rocky as soon as they get of age, man. My sons are 2. They got a few years left, and we're gonna get them on the Rocky train, man.
Oh yeah, getting close. I mean,
yeah, we're getting that. We're getting there.
Yeah.
Right, what's the best or most impactful book you've ever read, man?
See, so I think different books hit you at different times based on where you're at, right? A good one to go to, man. The Bible's good to go to at any time, right? So and I mentioned all the F's a minute ago, dude. I left one out. One of my big ones is faith, bro. You gotta refuel their faith. And that ties into the foundation a lot as well. I love David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me. I like Cameron Haynes' book, Endure. I like Rich Roll's book, Finding Ultra. I'm not vegan. He is, but I was in a very similar situation that he was. I mean, I was getting lightheaded walking up steps. I thought that was a very good book. If I had to, since I'm already at like 3 or 4 here, I like anything on mindset, right? I think Psycho-Cybernetics, by Dr. is it Maltz, I think. I think that's one of the best books ever written, and it's been redone a few different times. But I'm also a big biography guy, a big autobiography and biography guy, right? So if I can just like peek into the mindset of some of the greats, like anything that, dude, I like reading about Lance Armstrong. I know he's been vilified. I like watching his documentaries. Like, dude, it's just a different gear. Tiger Woods had that book written by, I think, Armin Katea, that like went in and told everything about it. And you're like, you realize, I mean, people saw like, oh, this guy's a prodigy. I'm like, dude, he happened to work harder than everybody else for way longer than everybody else, right? So
by the time he was 13, he'd play more golf than most guys will do their whole life.
Maybe by the time he was 10, bro. I mean, he was playing about
12 hours a day, man.
Yeah. So my thing is, I don't like. There's no book that I'll read, and it just becomes my. It becomes my my life, right? But my whole goal is when I read a book, let me get one nugget, right? One nugget that I can take and I can use in other parts of my life. And I'm a big reader, spend a lot of time. A lot of people think I probably can't read. I can.
You could be smart and physical, man. We're changing that. We're changing that around.
Yeah, well, I like audiobooks too. So you ask me like run. A lot of times I do. If I'm gonna be out running 4, 5, 6 hours, man, I'll put an audiobook on. So
that's awesome. That's a great way to do. I listen to sermons a lot too. You mentioned faith, man. I'll put on my preacher friend Eddie Lowe, and I'll put on a sermon if I'm gonna go out for a run, man. It gets me through too. I like that. When are we gonna get a Boyd Myers book, man? That in the works?
Dude, I have been asked about that for years, right? I got asked about it long before the getting fat and everything else, right? So I don't know how much this I'm supposed to be saying. So that there is something in the process. There's one in progress, right? So I'm yes.
All right.
I'll leave it to you. Yes. We are getting one.
All right,
there will be
that,
one,
man. That's awesome. I like that, man.
So it's funny, right? You always think you think like, and this is one thing I was talking to different people that have had books, right? They're like, dude, you never think you're ready to have a book, right? So, yeah, man, there is one coming. There is one coming. I don't have a date. I don't have a timeline yet, but there's something in the works.
I like that. I'll be your first one to buy it and plug it, man. What's one surprising thing that people that follow you maybe on social media wouldn't know about you?
Man, follow me on social media, right? So so you get me on Twitter, you get the training and all that, right? A lot of people that follow me on Instagram, it's mostly my daughter, right? So here's the thing. She's 4. I've never told her no on anything. Right.
That dad daughter, man. That's a thing.
Yeah. So I'm as the hard exterior that people see that know, a lot of times they find out, man, that there's a little 4-year-old girl, a blonde-haired little girl.
Yeah.
That can get me to do anything in this world she wants. Dude, I almost bought a chicken because I have a house pig, right? I have a pig, right?
Yeah.
So I have a pig and I had to go get him some food, dude. I almost bought a chicken.
Just because she wanted it?
Yes. She wanted a chicken, dude. I almost bought, dude. I'm like, nah. Then luckily we ended up going and doing something else and she forgot. But I'm like, I was 100% on board with it. I was like, yeah, baby.
Well, of course, if Princess wants it, she gets it. I got a daughter that's 7. That doesn't get any easier. I'll tell you, man. My favorite all-time meme is this super shredded dude, and he says something like, "No woman will ever tell me what to do." And then it says like 5 years later, and he's sitting down at a princess tea party, like sipping. Yeah. These little. I've had about 1,000 tea parties. I never thought I would. I know every Barbie character and all these things. Yeah, man. Daughters have a way of softening you, man. That's
awesome. She and I sat down and watched the new Top Gun movie, and she liked that. So yeah. I'm trying to toughen her up a little bit. But
that's the cool thing is you'll get pieces of her, and she'll get pieces. Like my daughter did an 8.5-mile hike with me, not that long ago. I think she was 5.5 when she did it. And she likes to hike with me and do those things too. So you rub off on each other, which I think is awesome. All right, last one, brother, and then I got to wrap up. What is your future plans and any links? Obviously, guys, we're going to put everything below, but maybe just future plans and last word to the people, my man.
Man, so coming up here, we are 18 days out. I'm doing Ironman Waco and Waco 70.3. After that, so I'll announce it here. I'm not going to be able to do Ironman Cozumel because I'm closing on my house like during that period where I got to move. I just can't, right? It's like I'm selling my house, I'm closing, hitting the road, moving in. I'm hitting the road, going straight RVing.
That's awesome, man. That's so cool, man.
So I have a 4,200 square foot house, and I'm downsizing it to about 400 square feet. So that's going to be interesting. But after that, man, it's one thing at a time. I'll be honest with you. I'm kind of over, like I said, I'm over having the race on the calendar. I like having stuff on the calendar, obviously, but this thing's been lingering for a long time. I'm ready to, there's other stuff I want to do. So I think when I don't have the race on the background, you get a chance of me doing crazy stuff, right? But I ultimately, people ask me this a lot, right? Ultimately, I think I'd really like to do the Badwater 135. I got to get into that, but that's the race through Death Valley.
It's not that far from here, yeah.
Yeah, so I'd like to do that eventually, but man, I don't know. Sky's the limit. Anybody wants to contact me, obviously you can reach me on Twitter at Boyd Myers, and I'm sure it'll be in the notes. Yep. My website is not constantly updated, boydmyers.com. However, all of my links are on there. So anything as far as coaching or contact information, you can find me there.
All right, well, brother, I appreciate you so much coming on here, bringing your energy, just giving us drops of wisdom and letting us kind of get glimpses into your life and what you do, man. I'm a better guy because of you. I love following you on social media, seeing what you're up to. And brother, if I'm ever in Texas, I'm going to find a way to get to you, man. Just to do something crazy with you. I'll tell my wife, same thing I tell her when I see Zach Hommel. It's a 10% chance I won't come back probably with a guy like you, but
10%, right? Yeah. So
go
it's
out
funny.
With the boots on, man,
Yeah, me and Zach, that's the thing. Like I figure if he and I get together, there's much better than 10%.
Right, man. It might be a 30, man. Everybody, man, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate this Tyrompers No Limit podcast, episode 54 with the legend Boyd Myers on here. We thank him so much for coming on. I appreciate everything you do, brother. We'll drop all his links below. Please check him out. Give him some love on social. Throw him some follows. Throw him some DMs, some comments. Tell him how much you love this guy. We appreciate any love to the channel too, guys. Hit that subscribe button. Throw a comment underneath that you like the guest. That helps the channel out a lot. I appreciate you guys, man. Go do some hard things today. Push yourself. Push your mind. Go be kind to others. Bless up. Let's go change the world, baby. Have the greatest day.